Perfect. All right, so the next skill we're going to talk about are transfers. And as I promised, without hubris, we are going to teach you the skill of transferring just about any patient on this side of heaven if they can do three things. So all I need them to be able to do is three things. They can do these three things, we can transfer. Transfer meaning we can get them from supine to sit, for sure. And we most likely, if they can do a fourth thing, we can get them to sit to stand and get them to another surface. So three things, supine to sit, a fourth thing, sit to stand. So for the most part, we help you. Alrighty, volunteer. There's another human being. Come on down. Price is right. All right. Jump on up there for me. Kevin, lay down. What's your name? Name? Connor. Connor. All right. So Connor's going to help us here. So let's talk about mobility. How do we get people moving? Again, we're not dealing with post-surgical people. That will be kind of a different, not post-surgical like total joint replacements. That requires a little bit different things, especially if it's total hips. They may have hip precautions. That's really the only main one that we have to be conscientious about the most are hip precautions. Or open hearts, they can bear weight through their upper extremities, so you want to be careful with open hearts as well. So these are almost excluding those two. It still will work. Everything that we're doing still will work, but we just want to give you a general methodology of helping your patient go from supine to sit. So, most people, when going from supine to sit, if you walk in and you tell your patient, all righty, we're going to sit you up today, Connor, the first thing they're going to do is do what? They're going to reach out their hand and want you to, or they'll reach out this hand and they're going to want me to do this and yank them up. Ugh. Now, what's the danger? So, you all have articulated exceptionally well. Two main problems happen with me being a force agent on the arm. Number one is it can affect my back because I'm pulling with my force against their body weight. That's going to hurt my back eventually. But just as important, if they have any weakness in the glenohumeral joint, specifically in the joint capsule or in the labrum, then when I go to yank their arm, I'm going to sublux his shoulder and pull it out of joint. And that happens all the time because people aren't careful with other people's arms. When they go to move people, either the person does it or they'll do it unconsciously, yanking on somebody's arm. And that's dangerous. Also, the other danger is most people don't think about this one. There's a condition called nursemaid's elbow. Anybody ever hear this? One person, look at that, hey, two people, awesome. Nursemaid's elbow, if you never heard of this, it happens in small kids all the time, but ligamentous laxity patients, like your elderly patients, it can happen in them as well. So what happens is the radial head, as it's connected to the elbow, so distally you have the humerus here, and then you have your radius and your ulna. Radius is always thumb side, ulna is always pinky finger side. Your ulna is connected to your humerus through an actual joint. So there's a groove carved in the upper portion of your ulna that holds it on your humerus, keeping it in place. It's pretty safe. Your radius, on the other hand, is only held in place by ligaments and one of the ligaments is a round ligament that holds the radial head in place that's connected to the ulna. If you keep grabbing on somebody's arm, yanking on it, you can dislocate that radial head out of that annular ligament. Pop it right on out. You see it a lot in kids when people play with children and they grab them by the arms and they lift them up and down. You can create a nursemaid's elbow where you pull the radial head out of the annular ligament. You can also do it with elderly patients. So you have to be careful.
So my daughter, that happened to her, and so is that like permanent? Is it always gonna be like that?
No. As she ages, the annular ligament will become more substantial around it, and it will hold it in place a lot better. So it's not permanent. It happens more than you think it does. So it's the number one reason why I tell people, if you're gonna grab kids, grab them under the arms, under the shoulders, like you lifting up from here. And if you're gonna grab people, never grab them by their arms. So if I'm in a crash situation where I have to get you on your side and I don't have enough time to go through the steps I'm gonna teach you today, then I'm still not gonna do this. I always grab behind the shoulder on the scapula, because this is a decent connection to the trunk, and that allows me a whole lot more control. So even if he doesn't want to come, guess what's gonna happen? Doesn't matter, he's gonna come anyway. Even if he fights, doesn't matter. When I grab his scapula, he's coming. Even if he's trying to fight, he's like, I can't believe it. This guy's not lying. I can't even stop him from doing it. Yeah, you're coming. You're coming whether you want to or not. So I don't have to fight with the patient. When I decide you're going, you're going. So, and that's a whole lot safer for you and a whole lot safer for them. So that's the goal, is safety. Patient safety and your safety. So, let's say I'm not having to do that force. I'm not having to yank him up to pull him up. I want to help him learn to move himself. So that's the skill. So let's say these will represent bars for a general bed, and actually we don't really need these. I don't know why I pulled that up. So let's say this represents a hospital bed a patient will be in. Most times the first thing they're going to do is try to reach for the rail and grab and yank themselves up as well. I'm coming up. And so it injures themselves. We don't want to do that either. So the three skills every patient needs if they're going to learn to transfer is the skill of how to bridge, how to scoot, and how to roll. You can bridge, scoot, and roll. We can teach you how to get yourself up and not us drag you up. Bridge, scoot, roll. Biggest three skills. So let's prove it to you. So I need bridging, because bridging is going to affect scooting. So bridging is the act of bringing the knees in and learning how to lift the hips off of the bed, doing like that. That's a bridge. This is the most functional skill you can teach a patient. If you can't teach them anything else, teach them bridge. Why do I love bridge? What does this motion simulate that's going to be transferable later to something else you're going to need?
To lift their hips.
For?
Standing.
Yes! Who said it? I wish I had $1, I'd give it to you. I swear. God almighty. This is the skill of standing up. Convert it. So bridge for me. Now, take this, roll him the other way with his feet off of the bed. What do you think he does when he goes to stand up? A modified functional bridge. So one of the first skills I teach all of my patients when I walk in, I don't care how great they move or how terrible they move, we learn to bridge. Whether if they can do it themselves, or if I have to get my hand underneath them. With some patients, you gotta be careful. Maybe something wet back there. You didn't tell me you're incontinent. I should have read that in your chart. Not him, just patients in general. So come on down. So whether So whether I'm holding behind the back and aiding them in lifting, then come back down, just get this up and down. So whether I'm aiding them in lifting or whether they can do it themselves, the first skill I teach every patient is how to bridge, because it is one of the most functional transferable skills you will use through so many phases of your life. So I love good bridging. The next thing I do with bridging is I add a scoot to it. So now I want you to bridge and shift your hips. There you go, good. Bridge, come toward me. Yeah, bridge. Yeah, bridge. Keep going. I know you're going, this is so ridiculous. This is the dumbest thing. Why do I need to do this? I'll show you in just a second. All right, now, bridge, come toward me for me. Hold right there. Now, bring your knees toward me. And now what I want you to do, you're gonna roll your knees and your shoulders that direction. So bridge and scoots positions my patient to get ready to log roll so that we can prepare to sit up. So my third skill is rolling. Bridge, scoot, roll. All roll. So even if they can't segmentally roll, I teach them how to log roll. Love rolling. Rolling is a great skill. Whichever direction it is, I love rolling. Why do I love rolling? Because now, if I can get you sidelined, guess what I can teach you next? How to sit up. Skill. I hadn't done a whole lot of lifting on the, we're gonna wrestle match you to get you up. No, we bridge with scoot, we roll. Now I'm ready to sit you up. So let's talk about how I get people out of bed. Again, when I'm getting people out of bed, my main focus is, number one, teaching you to do as much as you can on your own, and B, minimizing the results of it injuring me. So I'm not gonna go here with Connor and grab his arms and go, we're gonna sit up, brother. We're not doing that. You have to show up for work tomorrow. I'm not calling in. That's too much work. We're not doing that. So, what the first thing I'm going to do when we're getting ready to get up is I'm going to teach them a skill. So this is what I want you to do. Take this bottom arm that's down, and you're going to make a fist with this. I love that. Top arm, you're going to make a cup. So fist, cup. Now, when we get ready to come up, you're going to push your fist arm into the bed, and you're going to push your cup arm onto your fist. And that's going to help lift your trunk all at once. Look at that. That gum to look. It works. So, but now, don't do it yet. Just hold that thought. That does work. I'm proud. Now what I want to teach him is momentum as a skill. So the next thing I'll teach him, bend your knees to about 90 degrees. And now, on the count of 3, we're going to put these 3 things together. You're going to push down with the fist, you're going to push in with the cup, and you're going to drop your hips at the same time. On 3. You ready? 1, 2, 3. Push. Momentum does the work. Not my muscles, momentum. So let's say he's too weak to do that. Winston, you can't do that. Then we still work on it with him. All right, back down for me. Same skill. This time, I'm going to assist. But I'm still not going to grab it, wrestle him up, do it. I'm going to take my left arm, rest it underneath his scapula here. So now I have control. Remember, showing you how much control you can get with the scapula. I'm going to take my right arm, wrap it underneath his knees. And we're still going to teach him the same skill, but all I'm going to do is pull. I'm going to stand with my hips and let my arms push down on his legs and pull up on his shoulder through me standing. All right, on 3, 1, 2, 3, and he's up.
Y'all gonna remember this Thursday, Friday in clinical when it takes 4 of you to sit the patient up. This is so important.
Great skill. Keep you from dying.
Like a good rule of thumb is that you can control a lot with that scapula.
Scapula is one of the greatest areas of control, because we have to think about it now. The scapula, with this connection to the clavicle, is literally the only, the scapulothoracic joint, or the scapulothoracic articulation in the back, But the acromial, the sternoclavicular joint is what I'm trying to get to. Sternoclavicular joint is the only bony attachment of the entire upper arm to the axial skeleton. So this connection right here is the only thing that supports this whole structure here. And the scapula is a part of that control. So if I control the scapula connects to the clavicle here. So if I can move the scapula, I can control what's happening with the trunk. So it's very important. So it's really, really important. Okay? So any questions on sitting a person up?
Is this like for a particular like type of patient?
Any human being that's breathing that doesn't have precautions. The only thing I would do different, like I said, if he has, let's say Connor has total hip, the only difference is I would keep a wedge between his knees so that his surgical leg doesn't cross over his non-surgical leg, because that can disarticulate the hip. If he had open heart, the only difference is I wouldn't have him doing the push down and the push ups with his arm because he can't weight bear. I would just use my arm to help sit him up. But that, I mean, any person that's functional to move, this is how I would move.
Okay, so it's better to teach them to do it like with their elbow in their hand than like if you were to take like the bed and raise the bed, head of the bed, and like
Absolutely.
get them to.
Here's why. If I discharge to home tomorrow and I don't have that bed, how do I get up? So unless I'm gonna have a $4,000 Craftmatic adjustable bed at home, or you're gonna go home with them, which I tell patients all the time, your grocery bill is gonna go up about $1,000 a week, because I eat well. You can take me home, but it's gonna cost you. So other than that, unless they're gonna take you home or they have that bed, then the only way that they'll know how to get up, the only way we've trained them to get out of bed is by moving the bed and not teaching them to move themselves.
Makes sense.
So this is functional independence. This transfers to any setting. Whether I'm traveling, whether I'm at home, whether I'm visiting someone, I can learn to get up this way no matter what setting I'm in. I don't need a special bed. I don't need it to do anything weird. I don't need rails on the edge of it. I don't need pull bars or pull handles to do something with. I can learn how to functionally mobilize myself with a skill that's above just doing it with accessories. I always used to tell my patients, if you're gonna pay to have me as your therapist, you shouldn't have to pay for anything else. My goal is to teach you the skill to do it yourself. Make sense?
Mhm.
So that's what we teach, skills. It's a skill set. And getting back in bed, I teach them the same thing. So I don't let them just sit on the edge of the bed and just flop back in the bed and have no control. I teach them the same thing. So you're gonna come back down onto your shoulder, pop your knees up at the same time. 1, 3, 2, 3. There we go. And now they're back laid. Now we teach them the same skill. We're gonna get you to roll back onto your back. Look at that. Now bridge, scoop. You're in the middle of the bed. Everybody is like, I can't tell you looking at me like, this is great, like, this is the dumbest stuff I've ever done. So either way, we'll teach you good skills. Okay, so now let's go from one surface to another surface. So let's say we have them sitting up, so come on up for me. Yeah. So we'll still use that same skill. She's doing for you. We still I can do this without needing help. Yep, drop the legs and push on up for me. There we go. So now we have them sitting up and we need to get them to a chair. Either for, they may have to do a test, they may have to go down and do an MRI, CT, I don't know all the different, I'm sure I can name several. They may have to go to dialysis. This person needs to get to a chair. So the skill there it's all about positioning here as well. So gait belts are safety keys. I always tell people it's good to have them. If you're gonna have a stethoscope, keep a gait belt with you, just because the belt helps you to control what's happening with your patient easier. So I like gait belts. Always be careful of the abdomen in case they have ports or things in the abdomen that will make that really painful. Go above it if you have to, but it's a good way to use it. So when I'm teaching a patient to transfer to a wheelchair for mobility, the first thing I want to do, clear the feet. You don't have to take them off, you just want to clear them. Move them out of the way. Flatten the chair. Now, I don't want the chair here. It's too much work. You're gonna have to really stand, turn all the way around, sit, fall, risk. That's dangerous. I want my chair at a 45-degree angle, and I want it on their strong side. So if his right side is really weak, post-stroke, he has a right hemiparesis, right hemiplegia, we're gonna transfer him to his left. Strong side transfers all the time. I wanna get the chair 45 degrees, lock the chair. It's the greatest skill you can do. Lock the chair. Now, everything else is teaching him the skill of standing up. Most times, when people are learning to stand, where they get it wrong is where they start to stand from. I know you're thinking, what? That doesn't make sense. Most patients, because they don't think about standing, will try to stand either with their backs completely straight or their trunks behind their knees. So let's prove a point. All of you amazing people, what I want you to do is sit facing your chair, sitting forward, scoot back so you don't bump your knees. Okay? Now what I want you to do is I want you to lean back on your chair, and without going forward, stay in that position and stand straight up. Nobody, seriously, nobody can't do it. So guess what your patients won't be able to do either? Stand up from there. But guess what they're going to do when you tell them to stand up? I can't move. Pull me up. No, that's not my job. I don't get paid to pull. I get paid to teach. So, the first thing, positioning matters. So the first thing I'm going to do is get them forward enough where their feet are flat on the floor so that they can position themselves. I want their heels behind their knees, so that positions the hip and knees. I want their hips above the knee. So you don't want to ever be sitting preparing to stand with your hips and your knees at the same level. So what do I mean by that? If I were to lift the bed and make his hips and his knees the same level, that makes it really hard to stand. You don't have any force. So I want my knees below my hips. So there should be an angle from your hip down to your knee at all times when you're going to stand. Angle to hip and knee. Once I have that, the skill now is teaching them how to bring their trunk forward. Because most people are going to either want to do it from a vertical position or a lean back position. You want to tell them, I need your nose over your toes. Or can you see your feet? If you can't see your feet, you're not ready to stand. I don't care how strong you think you are. If you can't see your feet, we're not ready. So we'll sit there and just work on that skill. Leaning forward till you can see your feet. Can you see your feet? I can see them. Great. Now we're ready to stand, baby. So leaning forward, trunk over the body. This helps to position you to get ready to stand. You put your glutes at a functional range of motion to be used, so they're the proper stretch to be used to help stand you up. And then from there, I'm teaching them the skill of pushing like they do with the bridge. Same way you do the bridge. You're lifting your butt off of the surface. Standing is nothing more than a modified bridge. That's all it is. So same way you do the bridge, sitting down or lying down, same skill set I want you to do here. Bridge. It's a standing bridge. That's all it is. So once they now have the skill, all I'm doing now is coming in. I'm going to support the extremity that's weak. I'm going to have them reach for the device. And we're going to stand with that bridge on 3, 2, 3. And then you are turning and getting them in the chair. That's you. Not. No, not doing that. Here, there, shift. That's all you do, shift. That's the skill of transfer. Even if I was getting him back, if his, let's see which side we had the right side weak, I will put him on the opposite direction so his left leg is facing the bed. Same concept. Transfer.
That's real important you understand where to put the wheelchair related to a weak side.
Yes.
That's very important.
You always want, you transfer always to the strong side. So if they're getting up, you want them going to the strong side. When they're coming from the chair, switch it around, they will be coming from the strong side. It's gonna be cool. Don't worry. There we go. Make sense? Left side is the strong side. So I need to move him in this position to transfer him now. Back to me. Okay?
Is it also helpful for them to put their hands on your shoulders?
You don't want anybody grabbing onto you. Cause if something goes wrong, guess who becomes the fall man, literally. So if they are supporting themselves on you, then what they're really telling you is they don't trust themselves. The whole skill of transfer is to teach them to trust themselves. They can do it. That strong side can support it, they just don't believe it. But once you show them what to do, they go, oh crap, I can do this myself.
Or they just want you to do it?
Yeah, you don't get paid to be a support surface. That will wear you out. Cause they'll put most patients, when they wanna put their arms around your neck, they wanna push down on you like a chair. So they do this to you. Good way to injure you. Don't let them do that to you. Dangerous. Give me a push. Yes, ma'am.
So what about, like, I know you said that the knee needs to be below the hip, so when you stand them up from a wheelchair, if their hip and their knee is at the same height.
Wheelchairs are a little bit different, especially hospital chairs, because they don't have a seat cushion. So the goal there, so if I was standing him here, the goal here is to get him scooted to the front of the chair. So that better position. So I want them to scoot to the front. And so if they can't do what he's doing there, do cheek to cheek. So scoot back for me. So I'll have him do cheek to cheek scoot. So he'll scoot one cheek, opposite cheek. Cheek, cheek. And now bring him forward. And that positions you with the knees below your hips, even in a wheelchair situation.
Okay, so like, my for example, I'm being put in the video, but like, I can be in the wheelchair like right next to me, but having it in the angle, is it better?
Much easier. So if you put it directly next to the bed, then what you're doing is having to get her around the chair versus just transferring with the turn. So it's much easier to 45 than 90-degree horizontal. Yes, ma'am.
So when you're doing the chair, we always switch it, I'm trying to get in my head, like, so the strong side, it would be over there because that's how they're loading, but then when they're unloading, that's why you move it to like the side.
Right, so if I am getting ready to transfer him back to bed, his left side is the strong side. So I need this to be the dominant side moving in the direction. So if we were getting out of bed, his left side is here, that's the dominant side, so I need it that way.
This layer is closest to where you're trying to go.
Right, dominant side should always, the chair should always be on the dominant side. Mhm. It's good, I like these questions. Any other questions? Comments, concerns? I can, if you want me to.
Yeah, I was gonna ask.
Sure, we can. So, all right, so let's start, let's say you're a real weak patient, so go all the way back. Okay, now, so we do the cheek to cheek scoop, so one cheek, left cheek, there you go, cheek, near the edge, all right, come forward for me. Now, I'm still supporting the right knee here, making sure it's not bad. I'm not bending with my back, I'm bending with my knees. I'm having one arm on the surface, one arm on the chair. We can do the counting thing, but I'm gonna have them lean forward. Can you see your toes?
Yes.
Lean, there we go. And now, push up for me. Turn, there we go. Excellent.
So you see how you did it just one motion?
So
When you get rid of
everything,
that,
single motion. I'm not trying to stand, hope and pray, fall, one motion.
When we went to clinicals, we went into this lady's room and there was a bed, there was a couch on one side and it was right next to the wall.
Good question. Best thing to do in those scenarios, unlock the bed, push it as close to the couch as you can, and still squeeze the chair into the surface area. Usually, you'll have a couch, a bed, small space, and then the door to the bathroom. So you try to squeeze that chair in by the bathroom. So push it as far over as you can to create the space you need.
Could you also like put towards like the TV if there's like room there?
Potentially, but usually you're trying to create more horizontal than anterior posterior. But whatever creates that space so that the chair can get in at a 45 to get them up. All of these are good. I love this. I'm not allergic to questions.
You said that whenever they're trying to get up, you feel like they need to be facing moving forward, kind of. What if they like can't really lean forward?
Why can't they?
If they're pregnant, or
Good
if
question.
they're fat, or maybe if they have like a,
Protruding abdomen,
Yeah, okay. I
as
didn't know
far
what-
forward as they can, yeah.
Cause I can't see my toes.
So it's why.
So like, that's what we're
You
trying
know,
to figure out how to.
Pregnant, I call pregnant ladies the greatest contraindication on earth. Hopefully in that case, you do what you can to help them, so that they don't compromise themselves. You wanna try to get them to lean as far forward as possible. As long as they're not vertically straight, they can help you with standing. This is impossible. So if I'm vertical or I'm in rear, then that's impossible to stand. But if I can just get you a little bit past neutral, now I can get you in a position to use your hips and your glutes to do the work versus just pulling on somebody else. So the goal is to get them as far forward as possible, but if you can just get them a little past neutral, that's gonna substantially impact your abilities to transfer.
Are you allowed to like cuff under your arms, like?
The reason I don't like arm cuffing, is because shoulders are so stiff. Like I said, think about that. This whole structure is literally held on the trunk by this one joint right here. So if I'm applying a lot of force through that, I'm really putting some danger to that. So I love gait belts because they give you points of control without putting abnormal force through the humerus. So I don't like force through the humerus at all. So if anything, instead of grabbing under your arm, I'll lean you forward and grab your scapula and pull you up by your scapula. But I don't like, like the fire just kills under your arm. I'm not a fan of that. If we can.
Would you change any,
Yep. Go ahead.
would you change any steps of the process if they have any amputations in their like upper extremities or lower extremities?
I mean, if they don't have, a humerus to help with the pushing up, then I would most likely see if I I couldn't transfer them to the opposite side. So unless they have bilateral, humeral amputation, which is, it's not unfathomable, but it's usually rare. Then as long as they had some function of an elbow, I'm going to let that be my push arm, if nothing else. Because that's going to give you force to help you sit up. So it doesn't have to just be off to the right, it can be off to the left and do the same force arm and pushing up. So you don't just limit it to just one side. It just made more sense to come off this way. But you can do it to either direction.
And like, foot amputations without change so much.
With the lower extremity, as long as they have one functional one where I can use it as a force arm to sit up, still thinking the same thing, and still transferring to the dominant side where there's a non-amputation. So if your left side was your side without the amputation, I'm gonna transfer you to your left all the time.
And you're not supposed to know at this point how to deal with all these people with amputations and wound vacs coming out and all that. Those are learned skills, and it's just basic how to stay safe and get a person up.
If they don't have any lower extremities, then we have something called a sliding board. So consult PT, and we use what's called a sliding board that boards into the chair from the bed, and we teach them how to use a sliding board. Sliding board transfer. So that's legal. Yes, ma'am.
So if a gate bill isn't provided, so you say you'll grab them by their scapula?
Mhm. I would grab them by their scapula if, instead of doing this, if I had to grab something, I would still try to use the gown and grab them near their waist. So let's say this is his gown and we didn't have a gate belt. I would still rather try to do this as control, because I get a lot more force here than I would get doing this, where I can impact the shoulder and jam it up into that subacromial space and injure his shoulder.
How do you grab somebody by their scapula? Like, I can only do it like if she,
Lean forward, bend them, and hold here. It's a real thing. It's called a bow bath
It's
technique.
covering their scapula.
Near NDT. It's an NDT.
It's not like a.
Yeah, it's something you probably would never use in your life. We use it in therapy. It's a bow bath technique that we use. But you literally bend them far. I mean, you probably would never use this in your life, but you would bend them forward and you can mobilize them by their scapula, depending on how much help they need. It's
But
doable.
you're not as a fundamental.
Yeah, not right now. Don't use that. But yeah, your goal, keep your gate belt. Buy you a $3 gate belt off of Amazon. Keep it in your backpack with you at all times.
what about if they're like obese, like extremely obese, and you can't do that, then what?
As long as, if they can have some level, if they've stood recently, they probably can help stand. So most times we look at obese people and go, "Ooh, God, there's nothing I'm gonna do with you to pray." But these people have functional mobility. So, and most of them have figured out ways to mobilize themselves. It's just healthcare providers are nervous because we're scared we're gonna drop them. So get assistance if needed, so you feel comfortable. Have multiple people, but the goal is I would try to get them as easy to stand as I could, getting their hips as high as I could above their knees, so they're not having to use so much force through their knees and hips, and still teach them the same concepts.
I think that I'm thinking of like more like morbidly obese, like my 600-pound life type.
Same.
Yeah.
I've transferred people, the largest person I've transferred was about 776. We had 2 gate belts tied around them at the same time. I still taught them the same skill.
And can they still like do, like, what about, I'm really not trying to be like ugly or anything, because, but I watch those shows and stuff, and like, so what if they can't get their arms around themselves to like push up
push up.
or?
So then what I would tell them is to tuck the arm underneath them if they can, tuck the shoulder, And now, instead of trying to get their arm all the way around, if there's massive girth, just try to get the elbow at the bottom underneath them as much as they can, and then drop the legs and just try to push up, and you may have to help them with that.
And
But
they
it's-
would have to practice that a million times.
Yeah.
You would just one day be able, you know.
Right.
that kind of thing.
Yeah, so it takes repetitive skill to do it, but it's doable. We've done it.
Not cutting your questions short, but we have to go.
Yes.
So, first of
And
all,
oh,
say
crap.
thank you.
Oh,
Thank you very much. Okay,
15 minutes ago.